What's up, guys? This is Kyle, or KC Designs, as some of you might know me from Instagram. I'm the designer for EOS, and I figured I should do a tutorial or a couple of tutorials on YouTube to get you guys kind of started, because I get daily, if not like hourly, questions on how to do a specific task in Fusion 360, whether it be sweeps, grinds, or something simple like chamfers and all that cool stuff. So that's what this is going to be. This is going to be a quick tutorial, and what I'm basically going to be showing you guys is how to kind of achieve something similar to this. This is a design I did a couple of months back and figured it would be a good place to start as far as a tutorial, because it's got all the basic stuff like a sweep. You create a chamfer using a sweep. You got some pipe cutouts using boundary fill. You've got extrusions, more chamfers, boundary fill with spheres. What else? Extrusions, grind, split body. So let's get into that. We're gonna first start off with, I have my DXF here, which I took from my other file, and we're gonna start off by extruding up to our final thickness of the handle, which I usually start at around 0.18, but that varies depending on your knife. And let me check something. Okay, I don't like that, but that's fine. So there you go. Now you have your 3D object, and what I normally do is I will come back and sketch on this top plane here, and I'm going to hit P for project, which will grab the DXF that's on the other level and bring it to the plane that I'm sketching on currently. So I'm just gonna go ahead and extrude my counterbores to 0.55 inch, which is what our head height is for our screws and our pivots normally. And so now we have that, and then I go and throw a chamfer on those of about 0.5. And I'm working in millimeters because Fusion is, at least for me Fusion is very weird about working in inches. Like if I were to extrude, say I wanted to extrude this up to here, it would go up to here, and then as soon as I hit OK, it would either jump a little bit past or a little bit under, which is kind of weird to me, and I've found that working in millimeters solves that. So which it's fine, and then John, my boss, just has to scale the drawing when he gets it, which is no big deal. Sometimes it comes in great, sometimes it doesn't, but we'll worry about that another time. So basically there you got your basic 3D profile with your chamfers for your screws. Now the next thing I want to do is I'm going to want to offset this by, I think, 2. And I'm going to come back to my other file here to see what I did. Okay, I created a heavier sweep here with a spline. I think I actually, I drew this in with this is an arc, this is an arc, and this is a spline. Arc, arc, arc. Okay. So I offset this by 2, I believe, and then I'm going to come in and draw this sort of profile in there. So I'm going to flip this around. Let's see here. And I got rid of that. So we're going to take our spline tool, and we're just going to kind of I'm going to come right here. I'm going to kind of eyeball it in. It's not going to be 100% the same. Let's see here. Okay, I think that looks good. Now we're going to want to click and drag to bring that up. I don't really like where that's sitting. Go back to verify. So we actually come up higher here than we do down here, so that's fine. So we're going to move this up, this out. You just kind of want to make it look as normal as possible. T-splines are a bit weird. I guess these aren't really T-splines, are they? Well, I don't know. You get the point. So I'm going to want to take this all the way off. The less points you have on a spline, the nicer it looks sometimes. So, and then extend that all the way through, because we're going to need that later. So that looks pretty good. Very simple. And then what I'm going to come do is I'm going to trim. Oh, wrong one. Undo. I'm going to want to trim the original outline we did, or the original offset, I'm sorry. See here, get that gone. We don't need that. splines are kind of weird to work with, so sometimes this won't work. So I'm going to want to fillet, which you'll have this in your drop down menu somewhere. You just have to find it. I want to fillet this. If the spline, see, that's where splines get funky. Don't know why. They just do weird things sometimes, and it's kind of a pain, honestly. So I'll show you a kind of a loophole to that. But first, we're gonna come in here. I had a bigger radius here. That one matches that one. See here, and then this one's kind of angled outwards, so we're angled in and out. So I'm gonna come here, grab my 3-point arc, come from about here, and we're gonna come. How close do we get to that screw? Pretty close, I believe. Yeah. So we offset our screw. So actually, let me offset my screw by 1. Okay. And then I'm gonna come over here and click tangent, click this line and this, so that this line is now tangent to that point. And then come back to verify. We've got skinnier up here and larger down here. So I'm going to want to come from this point here and going to want to make it tangent to that. See here. Saving it back up. Trim this, trim that. Fusion never works. Here we go. Okay, and then I'm going to actually, I don't need this line anymore or this line. That one can go away. Fusion's a very, very, I believe CPU intensive program. It could be GPU, but I have a fairly decent computer at home and at work, and Fusion still gives me hell. So if you have a lower end rig, I would recommend either holding off on Fusion or upgrading, because it can be fairly annoying to work with Fusion. Okay, we're going to trim that. We're going to leave this alone for now. Actually, we'll try it. We'll see if this one will fill it for us and not freak out. Nope, it's going to freak out too. So we'll leave that. I'll show you guys a fix for that. Come back here, verify. Just need to make a bigger radius there. Can achieve that by trimming that corner, fill it, and then bringing that to about 10, I believe. And then I believe, okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to extrude this up, and I'll show you why in just a second. So I'm going to extrude this up, change it to new body so that this is its own piece. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it up, and I'm going to sketch on the bottom of, actually no, I don't need to do that, sorry, not yet. I'm going to come here and grab my 3D fillet, which is for 3D objects and not sketches. We're going to take this corner and we're going to drag it until that ugly line here goes away. About 4 is fine. And then same thing with this one. This is how I get around. This is how I get around filleting splines. Sorry. And now what I want to do is I want to sketch on this plane, our original plane, and I'm going to hit P to project this profile onto our lower plane. And now I can hide this body because I no longer need it. So now that's going to be our profile, and what you're going to want to do now is you're going to want to go to path along, or yeah, plane along path. So now we're going to create a plane on our DXF here. So you can start this wherever you like. It's probably best to start it on a longer portion, because I have run into some issues using a shorter line. And let's see, now we're going to take our 3-point rectangle, which is you're going to have to find in your drop down menu because it's not default. And you're going to want to come to this quartered circle here. It's got like 2 white portions and 2 darker portions, and that's where your line is. That's where your point is of your line on that plane. And you're going to want to take this out a little ways and draw up. Doesn't matter how high, just preference. You can change it later. Then you want to go to sweep, and I believe it'll be right here. You're going to want to click your profile. We're only going to use single path. We'll get into path with guide rail later. You're going to use your single path and select this plane. And now you see that you are extruding that outer perimeter. And this is why I offset from my circle so that I have a perfect radius around my screws, which looks very nice. And perpendicular and parallel, you really don't have to worry about too much, except when we get into blade grinding. Blade grinding, that matters. So we're going to just cut it, and this is what you're left with. Now you're left with this outer profile here, and we're a little thin here, so what you can do is you can come back, turn your sketch back on, and you can click and drag this corner just a little bit, and you'll see that it moves that up, and that's a little more comfortable for me. It's not too sharp. So we have that. Now what you're going to do is I'm going to go back and look what else I need to do here. I'm going to do these first, these little pipes here, these little boundary fills. That way I'll have the profile for this in a second. So now you're going to want to go to, what I like to do is I like to use the 3-point arc. We're going to flip this around because Fusion's being a little weird. And I'm just going to rough in kind of like a pointy arrow, or like a bottom portion of a heart shape, and then I'm going to fillet that to good little radius. And then what we're going to do now is we are going to create pipe using our create tool menu. Turn your sketch back on because for some reason Fusion oddly turns it off. Now pipes, you have a few different options. You can come over here and you can either have a circle, which is what I normally use, or you can do a square, which would be like an end mill coming through, or triangle, which is, I guess it would be good for like dovetail. I'm not sure. We're going to use circle, and we're going to change the section size to, I believe, 1 or 2. I believe it's 1. 1 looks fine. And we're not going to extrude this, so we're going to actually change this to new body, because what we're going to do next is we're going to create a pattern. And we're going to go here. I have it here, but I'm going to show you guys how to get to it. It's down here. Pattern on path. You want to change this to bodies. Click that. And then I want to use this line here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a sketch. I'm going to hit P for project, and I'm just going to take this spline, and then we're going to want to just click the spline, hit O, and offset it by, doesn't matter how much, I'm just going to offset it by 1.5, whatever. And then I'm going to trim it right, which way do I want to go? I need to go closer to the pivot, so I want to trim it here because this is going to be the furthest back one. So I'm going to trim this spline here, and now we're going to want to go pattern on path, change this to bodies again, click your body, and then now you're going to select your path, and you're going to want to drag till about there. I'm going to want to do 4, and then I'm going to change orientation to path direction so that they actually curve. Now I'm going a little in here, so I'm going to come back, and to me that looks good. And I'm actually going to move them down because they're a little odd looking right now. We're going to drag them. We're going to rotate this back by 3, move it up a little bit, and move it here. So to me that looks good, and you can just kind of play around with it and move things where you want. And now this is a feature that I didn't learn about until like, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 months ago, and I never knew how to use it, and finally figured out how. We're going to use boundary fill. And now what you're going to do is you're going to select your main body and your 4 other bodies that you just created, and you'll see it pops up with these circles. Now what you're going to want to do is select cells. You want to select everything. Oh, sorry, wrong way. You need to drag the other way. You want to select everything, and you kind of get a preview of what it's actually going to cut. So you want to come here and deselect the main body because you want to keep this, but you want all this to go away. You're going to come change this to cut, and you should be left with those cutouts that we showed. Sweet. Okay, now we're going to move on to the actual little doohickey. And Fusion just updated, and now I don't know why, but you can't do negative numbers anymore, which is odd. So you have to actually go backwards. It's just kind of dumb. Oh well. Be great if I could click the right thing. I'm gonna go back here and check how far I offset it by. That looks like a 2 with a 1.5 chamfer and a 1 chamfer. Okay. So now I'm gonna want to offset my circle so that I don't cut into that. I'm gonna offset that by 2 as well. And we're gonna trim the parts that we don't need. We don't need this, don't need that. And double click so that it selects all the entities. Now we're gonna want to fillet the sharp corners because we can't make those with the machines. So I like to do 1.5 to 2 on this one. I think I'm gonna do 2. Just kind of fits the knife a little better. And and see, Fusion has this weird thing like that. So this one's going to be 1.75, and this one is going to be probably a 1. Yeah, 1 looks fine. So now you're going to want to extrude this down however thick your piece of whatever you'd be putting here. And ours doesn't really matter. You can always adjust this when you're actually machining it. So now you have a pocket for a cool carbon fiber piece. So what you're going to do next is you're going to want to click this plane, extrude up to here so that they're on the same surface, and you're going to change this to new body. And then you can either chamfer this, or you can do a pipe around this, which actually looks pretty cool. I'll show you what it looks like. If you do a pipe, you're going to change this to 1, and you get this cool, like, you know, outline of a pipe. And I don't know, I think it looks kind of cool. I'm actually going to do that for this model and leave it, and just going to add an appearance so that I can differentiate the two pieces. Carbon fiber, twill, and there we go. Scale that down a little bit. And I'm not going to get into rendering any of that yet. Kind of do that later at some point, but we'll see. So now you have a carbon fiber piece, your cutouts, and we're pretty much almost done. The only thing this handle's missing is bearing pockets, a stop pin. Let's see, what else am I forgetting? I think that's actually it for this handle. These look a little different, that's fine. What I want to do is I'm going to actually add a pivot collar here because I'm curious to see what a pivot collar would look like. So I'm going to use a 0.625 with a 0.37, now we're saving recovery, with a 0.375 inch pivot. And let's see here, we're going to want to extrude down to our 0.055, negative 0.055 inch. Turn our sketch back on here, and this is now going to be like that. New body, and then we're gonna come up with this new body. Not really sure why I did that. That's fine. 0.25 inch, so I can get my pivot hole back there. Oh, wrong one. Turn sketch on. Nope, don't do that. And extrude that all the way through. So now we have our pivot and then our pivot collar. Except I just extruded all the way through my pivot like a genius. Edit feature. We don't want to cut that, so actually undo that. Why is that like that? Okay, let me just start over here because I seriously just confused myself. Bring this in. Okay, so is this my pivot, right? Yes. Put a chamfer on that. And then I'm going to want to create my pivot collar now. We're going to just extrude this up new body, and we're going to use the pipe again because it matches the rest of the knife. Change that to 1 so it's consistent, and we're going to want to chamfer this down to that, and let's apply a texture to this. We'll use our carbon fiber. So now you have a pivot collar, a insert, and this insert can be epoxied in, or you can even put screws in it, you know. Yeah, so I think that's enough to get some of you guys started. I think that'll be a good first video. So this is part 1. There will be continuous parts, don't know how many, just depends on how much I want to get into this. But yeah guys, this is a very in-depth tutorial on creating a handle. So if you guys liked it, please be sure to give the video a like, subscribe to the channel for more videos when they come out. Don't know how often that'll be, and if you guys don't already follow me on Instagram, it's at casey.knives, where I post all my cool renderings and stuff. So yeah guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope this helped.